And it's about your belief systems, and it's about the work that you're willing to put in, and it's about what you think is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere deep inside of me, to go back to what you originally asked, there's a lot of people that simply feel that this is my lot in life and I just have to accept it, right? I was never one of those people,
mm-hmm.
ever. I always felt like there was something more. I just had to start to allow myself to dream again and visualize again. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation now, because this has really been on my mind all morning, and I almost wrote it down, but I didn't end up writing it down because I'm like, no one's going to believe this or care anyway.
Well, now we'll get it out.
Now we'll get it out. And it's silly, and bear with me because you may not get anything out of this, but I'm a huge believer in, if you can conceive it and you believe it, you can achieve it, right? I think I'm stealing from the movie The Secret by saying that, or misquoting somebody. But when I think about something and I visualize something and I allow myself to dream, I make it happen. I put in the work. You can't dream about like, oh, I want that car, and then just lay on this sofa and go, oh, I really want that car.
And it shows up in your driveway.
Yeah, you gotta like, I want that car now. I'm gonna take pen to paper. This is the car I want. This is how much it cost. This is how much I'm gonna save. This is what I'm gonna do to get it. Here are the things I'm going to eliminate. Like, you strategize, you come up with a plan, and then you get up, you get off your ass, and you go to work. And sometimes it's 6 weeks, sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 6 years. The number 6 is irrelevant, but I'm just using that as a basis. You don't know when it's going to happen, and it often doesn't happen in the timing that you want it to happen. But I know over and over and over again, both with the example of a car that I wanted, a girl that I wanted to date, a bracelet that I wanted to have, which is so pretentious.
What is this bracelet?
So sad. You don't want to know. Trust me, you don't want to know.
Okay.
It's a bad story, but it worked. There was a bracelet at Chrome Hearts when I was like...
There's someone listening right now that has a bracelet thing.
It's so embarrassing.
And they're
It's
so
embarrassing. So I was whatever I was 8 months sober, 9 months sober. Cindy Landon gave me the DVD The Secret, and I watched it over and over again at this place where this guy was letting me stay, and it kept saying like, visualize the thing that you want. There was this ruby and diamond bracelet at Chrome Hearts. It was like $5,000. It's like come on, you're fucking homeless.
But you obsessed about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're I was homeless. I was broke. I didn't have an apartment. Like, I'm newly sober. I'm working like odds and ends jobs, like walking dogs and washing cars. I have a good idea. Why don't you make buying a bracelet your goal in life? And unfortunately, I have to admit to you, it was my goal in life. And I watched The Secret 150 times. I'm visualizing this bracelet. I'm thinking about this bracelet. I actually knew the brother-in-law of the guy that owned Chrome Hearts. He was a really good friend of mine. There's no way I was going to ask him, and he would have just laughed at me and slapped me upside the head and said, why don't you focus on buying yourself a car, or I wouldn't let it go. And I kept visualizing it. The night that I made the pact with myself that I was going to get this bracelet, I fell asleep visualizing it on my wrist. I woke up, I had severe insomnia back then. I woke up probably 4 hours later. I couldn't go back to sleep. I'm thinking about the bracelet. I drive down to Trancas Starbucks, which is about 2 miles that way, which is the end of the earth, and no one,
no reason to go past that.
No, right? Some surfers go there, like whatever. There's some people that live on Broad Beach go there. I go into that Starbucks. I get my large coffee. I'm about to go outside and smoke my cigarettes. I swear to God on my life, I put my, also embarrassed to admit, like 2 packets of Equal in my coffee, and I'm stirring it up in my creamer. And
it's funny that's the thing you're like ashamed about. Like
so,
all the drug use and everything.
I know, but like now I think about putting that poison in my body. Yeah. I turn around, and there's Richard, the owner of Chrome Hearts. Richard lives down there, 10 miles that way. I have never in my life seen him up here. To this day, 16 years later, I've never seen him up here. What was he doing at Trancas Starbucks at 6:30 in the morning, 6:45 in the morning, 7 in the morning, whatever it was? I have no idea. But I'm so naive and I'm so Pollyannic and I'm so insane that I walked right up to him and I'm like, hi, I know Greg and I'm sober now and I'm like really want to like reward myself for being sober, so I really want to get this one bracelet, it's got this cross. And he's just like, well, if you know Greg, why don't you just tell him that you want it and we'll get it to you at cost. I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, man. And he turned around, he walked out.
Didn't even buy him coffee.
No, I didn't buy him a coffee. I was so shocked to run into him, and I was so shocked that that actually happened. So I that was one of the many things that started to give me faith to believe in myself, believe in the power of, you know, the law of attraction and imagination and visualizing and focusing.
Energies will come together. And
so I went nuts. I'm working, I'm focusing, I'm getting my money together. I talked to his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law was like, yeah, whatever, just come up with a couple $1,000. I'm thinking, $2,000, I can make that in a month. Like, I'm going to get this bracelet, right? Here's a funny thing. I drove them both so crazy that I ran into Richard again a couple months later outside Malibu Kitchen, and I'm barking at him that, you know, I need to, you know, when's my bracelet, whatever, and he, like, snapped on me, and he was like, dude, I don't run a popcorn factory. You know, it takes time. Relax. And I got so upset, so offended that I ended up not pursuing it. About a year and a half later, after I had started my first business, I took a bunch of the clients to Vegas because they were having a really tough time. And I thought, let me snap them out of their mindset right now. These guys want to go smoke crack and shoot heroin. I'm going to, I know this is very unorthodox and I'm probably going to offend some people, but it was a bunch of dudes. I'm like, I'm going to take them to Vegas and I'm going to take them to a strip club and take them gambling. Because I thought anything is better than them going and shooting heroin and dying.
And give them some kind of adrenaline.
Some kind of adrenaline, some kind of a distraction. We went to Vegas. The next day when we were leaving, bags packed, we're walking out, I stopped at a blackjack table and had one of those moments, which I'm sure many people can relate to, where you just cannot lose a hand. It just, and I wasn't betting huge. I was betting like $50 and then eventually $150, and I think I capped at about $200. But I'm betting, I'm winning, and the kid Steve taps me on the shoulder and he goes, bro, let's go. And I'm like, dude, I'm winning. And he goes, why don't you go get that stupid bracelet you're always talking about? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. And he goes, no, I just counted it out. You have exactly enough money to get the bracelet. And he's like, he's done. He wants to stop or whatever. And like the pit boss comes over and he's like, don't touch the customers. Back away from the table. Like it turned into a tense situation. I'm like, oh, no. He's my friend. Color me out.
Yeah.
And I pushed my chips forward and they colored me out. And we piled back in that car, me and Steve and Alex Meckley, I think his name was, and whoever else was with us, JP. And we drove like 80 miles an hour back on the 15. And I ended up calling the Chrome Heart store here in Malibu. And because they were closing and we weren't going to make, no problem, we'll go grab dinner and we'll reopen for you when you get here. You know, here's awesome. My cell phone number. And we got there about 2 hours after they closed. They reopened the store for me and for all my friends. We walked in, and I had a giant stack of cash, and I put it down on the table, and I bought that bracelet, and I wore it twice in my entire life. It was so embarrassing how ostentatious and pretentious. Yeah. Listen, there's nothing wrong with the bracelet. The bracelet's beautiful. But if you're a loser... And
from where you came from,
it wasn't appropriate. It just wasn't appropriate. It was a silly, you know, it's like me wearing a gaudy.
But it worked for you.
It worked in the sense that it taught me that I can do anything. As silly as that is, and as embarrassing as that story is, it taught me that I can do anything by the grace and power of God, through the spiritual laws of the universe, with hard work, with dedication, with the right intention, right? I can do anything. So back to